Welcome everybody and thank you for joining this Great Expectations session by the BMPA and Komori India. This session is going to be moderated by Tejas Khanna of Printman, and I'm now going to hand over to Tejas to take it forward. Tejas, all yours.
Good afternoon, friends. BMPA welcomes you to path-breaking webinars every month. Our endeavor is to keep the industry up to date, not only with what is happening in the industry, but also to inspire and motivate during these difficult times. Today, we bring to you a very important discussion, Great Expectation, Packaging Buyers Perspective. Over the last 12 months, we have managed to survive and reasonably thrive. But what we need now is a plan for the future. And our planning will begin with not only reviewing our past, but to steer our businesses based on what our buyers will want from us over the next year, the next 3 to 5 years. In order to plan a long-term infrastructure planning, as well as short-term deviations in our current mode of working, it is important to understand what our buyers expect from us. We gain perspective regarding the key changes in regulations, what designs will matter in the future, what is the context which our end users exactly, what would our innovation strategy be. To gain this knowledge, we have invited a Diggaj panel of heavyweights who have their fingers on this pulse. Let me introduce each one of them first, and then I will hand over the session to each one of them individually for them to share their thoughts with you. I remind you all to please switch on speaker view for a more interesting one-on-one with each of the panelists. The question can be added to the Q&A box for us to ask them once the individual sessions are done. So please place your question during each session for them to be asked after the individual sessions are over. The first speaker for today is Mr. Amit Kale. He's the Assistant Vice President, Reliance Retail Limited, and is the winner of prestigious India Star Award 2010, 2012, 2017, and World Star Award 2011 presented by World Packaging Organization. Mr. Amit is a great believer in the fact that the key to future is sustainability and innovation, which only can make packaging a more sustainable, inevitable evil. He has 22 years of experience in P&L, automation, costing, strategies, packaging innovation, supply chain management, and vendor development. Our next speaker is Mr. Subhrajit Bhowmik. He's an Associate Director, Procurement and Packaging Development, Cipla Health Limited. Mr. Subhrajit is leading the packaging development and procurement function for Cipla Health for the last 3 years. He has over 19 years of experience in packaging operations, product packaging development, procurement, and vendor management. Mr. Subhrajit is a strong believer of work on business-oriented approach, as innovations only have value if it can be sold and fits the business approach. Our next speaker is Mr. Biswarup Chakrabarty. He's a Divisional Manager, Packaging Development, ITC Food Division. With an experience of more than 20 years in packaging development, procurement, and plastic molding, Biswarup has worked across food and personal product, FMCG, as well as in lube, oil, and pet industry. He's a plastic engineer and packaging technologist, but not only by education, by passion as well. Our last speaker, but not the least, is Mr. Sangam Khanna. He's a Deputy Managing Director of Komori India. Mr. Sangam Khanna's main approach is to work solution-based, positive attitude, and to lead by example. He's a qualified NDA fighter pilot from the Air Force. Mr. Sangam dropped out of the armed forces and outed to pursue the engineering and mastering in print. His work in Eicher Motors, Komori UAE has made it possible for him to develop a Komori market share in India from 1% to 52% in a span of 14 years. His style of working, get closer to reality, manage by being around, and travel an extra mile for a customer smile. Wow. With this kind of lineage, I am super excited for a cracking session, and I am sure all of you as well. So I request each one of you कि अपने मुंह पे मास्क पहन लीजिए अपने कानों के रिसीवर का साउंड बढ़ा दीजिए और अपने दिमाग की बत्ती को जलाइए, because these guys are going to enlighten you. Please welcome our first speaker for today, Mr. Amit Kale. Over to you, sir.
Hey, thank you, Tejas, for the nice introduction. And that last line also. आपने mask पहन लीजिए. ठीक है. Fortunately, we are virtual, so I don't need to wear a mask right now. And thank you, Bombay Master Printers, for inviting all of us for this exciting chat. And to give the first perspective in terms of retail and in terms of geo, So I would tell all the printers and and suppliers of packaging material, what we are expecting is, see, we are from the retail business. So our business is uh, we don't market our product, as in we don't do advertisements, and we don't do launch wherein we are able to uh, tell the consumer that we have launched a particular product. What we do is we have a retail chain and we try to give consumer a product which is competitive in terms of quality, and we test market it. So my advice or my request to all the printers is, number one is we want something uh, which we can launch immediately. As in, as soon as from concept to a shelf, the time taken from concept to shelf should be minimized. If it is 10 days, 5 days, that is the best. Today, if we go for it, we see that, it takes about 50 to 20 days for development, then cylinder making or plate making or all this. So if we can reduce that time, and so accordingly, if we can also reduce the MOQs, because we want to test market each and every product, and we may not be able to give you the volumes immediately, because the volumes will come only when the product is there in the market, it is accepted by the consumer, and then if there is a repeat sale, then the volumes will definitely go up. So our expectations as a retailer or a private label brand owners or e-com companies is, if you can give us something, if you can give us a packaging within the shortest period of time, that is from concept, again I want to reiterate, from concept to shelf, if we can bring this product within 5 days and with the minimum MOQ, so that we can test market it, that would be the best thing that is possible. That is number one. Number two, lot of R&D needs to be taken care by you guys, because you guys are expert in your field, and you should come up with innovative solutions to problems like, for fresh produce, where we want to deliver the product in the best possible condition to the market. There, I think more R&D has to be done by the suppliers of packaging material like Printman or any other flexible packaging material, wherein you can give us innovative product, whereby we can add value to the customer. We can give products with added value. So these are few expectations that we have as a retailer, and I would like you to, maybe if you can have something right now, or maybe in the coming future, if you can brief us, that would be a great thing to do. Yeah, Tejas.
So that was brilliant. It was extremely insightful, giving a lens into the retail and e-commerce sector. I'm sure the audience has good takeaways from the unexplored space. So a lot of questions are pouring in, but I would choose few questions which would summarize the crux of all the questions. The first question I would like to ask is, with the retail and e-commerce taking a traction, what smart packaging options would you recommend the packaging converters to enhance the unboxing experience for the end users?
Oh, that's what I was talking about, the innovation. The smart packaging, as I said, fresh produce. If you can give us a packaging, which can tell the consumer how fresh the product is. For example, if it is fresh, there is a line which appears green. If it is slightly stale, or maybe still good for use, it can be yellow. If it is bad for use, it should be red. So that we also add that value to our consumer, and this smart packaging tells the consumer, yes, it is fresh, and the unboxing experience is really good. First is that, and secondly, smart packaging, like I've seen many packaging abroad also, which talk to the consumer. For example, if we can have a customized pack, as I said, if we can reduce the MOQs and if we can give that value add to the consumer. For example, if it is Tejas' birthday today, and we send him a product packaging which actually talks to him as soon as he opens it, it says happy birthday to you, Tejas. Something of that kind, which can also be cost effective, of course. So if you can give us something like this, which is with the trend, then it would help us definitely.
Interesting. So my next question to you is, how important is packaging vendor proximity to the buyer's manufacturing location for your sector?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your question.
So my question is, how important is packaging vendor proximity to the buyer's manufacturing?
Tejas, I think there is some disturbance. Your audio is not clear.
So the question was that how important is the vendor proximity to your plant?
Yes. See, with the growing logistic field, that is not very important as such, because the freight cost and the time taken for delivery is more or less the same. Across India nowadays, with the help of maybe rail movement, or with the help of airlifting the material, or even the bus network which are going through. So I don't see that as a challenge. Proximity earlier, yes, people used to find a supplier who is near to you, so that we can have just-in-time inventory and on-call delivery. But I think with the nice planning that we are having right now, that is not, yes, it can be a good good to go, but I would say not a must to have. So that's not an issue. Only thing is, we need suppliers who are really who are ready, or who are able to deliver the material in time. As in, if we say, if a supplier tells me that I am able to deliver the material to you in 15 days, he should abide by that. It should not become 15, should not become 30 days. If that, then that's a challenge. But otherwise,
Correct.
Across India, wherever the supplier is, if he is able to maintain his own timelines, I don't see that as a challenge personally.
Correct.
Because we are retailers.
With all the new new companies coming in, I think within.
Yeah, we are retailers, so we have all our third-party manufacturers spread across India, and similar products they are manufacturing. So one must be manufacturing in Calcutta, the other person is manufacturing same noodles for example in Chennai, and for both the products probably Printman is the supplier. So Printman is neither closer to Chennai, neither closer to West Bengal. But if he is able to meet the given timelines, then we don't mind to have a supplier anywhere in the world. So that's the only concern we have. Yeah, Tejas.
Yeah. Just one. Yeah. So my next question to you is, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Tejas. We can hear you. Okay, I'll take that question. Mr. Kale, the question is, you said about the design. Do you expect the converter also to design the package, or do you have a specific design agency who does that?
Well, it's not about the design. I'm saying that, innovative R&D in terms of packaging, for example, increasing the barrier properties, or how to increase the shelf life of a product. So those kind of R&D, if it is coming from the supplier, is welcome. As far as the design is concerned, we have a ad agency, or we have a design agency who does all this designing for us. And unfortunately, there is a large disconnect between the design agency and what actually is possible. And sometimes it is very difficult to get these two hands held together, because the design agency, in order to become creative, they add so many colors and so many difficulty level that while at the time of execution, it becomes very, very difficult for a printer to actually have that kind of printing. For example, a designer may use 15 colors in designing an artwork, whereas we have a limitation of 7 to 8 colors. So then it becomes difficult. But as far as designing is concerned, that is taken care by the agency. What the designing that or R&D that I am talking about is in terms of increasing the shelf life, increasing the consumer, adding a consumer wow factor, wherein the consumer thinks or feels that he's actually opening a nicely designed pack and which is customized for him or something like that.
Thank you, sir. Tejas, go ahead.
Yeah. So my next question to you is, how is packaging changing for e-commerce? Is there any difference?
Yes, if you look at e-commerce, the biggest challenge is since e-commerce delivery is door delivery, and the products are assorted products. For example, I would not know that what Tejas is going to order today. So Tejas might sit and order on his app. He can order a hair oil along with a toilet cleaner and a shaving gel and a coconut probably and an apple, right? So this assorted articles, if you want to pack and present it to the customer, that's the biggest challenge. So it's very difficult to design a package because we don't know how much and what quantity a consumer is going to buy. So for example, a consumer today may buy a 1 kg atta, tomorrow he may go for a 10 kg atta, along with something which is drastically different. For example, ideally it should not be stored together. For example, an atta along with a toilet cleaner, if he's ordering, that becomes a challenge in terms of how to package it and present it to the consumer. So presently what you see is now there is one bag in which we try to put similar our food and non-food articles and send it differently. So for example, if Tejas is ordering one toilet cleaner and then he's ordering 5 to 10 food articles, he will receive two similar bags, similar size bags, in which one bag he will have only one toilet cleaner, and another bag, same size bag, he will have 10 different food products. So that is what is happening today, which is causing a lot of, I would say, which is actually harming the environment and which is against sustainability. So instead of reducing, we have actually increased the packaging. And it is the case with everybody. If you look at Amazon, even if you get a box which is packed by the manufacturer, Amazon will put another box which belongs to Amazon. So that is the kind of challenge we are facing in terms of this app-based deliveries.
Correct. So with this, you see a lot of increase in the corrugation packaging.
I would not say presently, yes. Presently, a lot of corrugated boxes are used. But I think this will definitely change because, flexible is the thing which can be, used easily. Because corrugation normally comes with a fixed size, right? So there are a lot of voids. If you see, sometimes you receive package where, the box is so big that in order to fill the gap, they have put a lot of maybe paper scrap, or they must have put some cushioning material like balloon or so all these things. So which is actually adding to the cost, number one, and number two, it is also not sustainable to have so much of rubbish in the box. So I don't think corrugation is the next thing for e-commerce. The next would be flexible only. Or if you can maybe, okay, if corrugation, if they are able to give us, in one board, if they are able to give us different sizes, that has also happened. In fact, Amazon has put up a plant which actually folds the carton according to the dimension of the product that they want to supply. So basically what they buy is they buy just the sheet of the paper and they actually crease it and cut it as per the requirement. But that is also not feasible in long run, because as I said, we really don't know what is that the consumer is going to order. And so I don't think rigid is the next thing for e-commerce. I think it will be flexible packaging, surely.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. I mean, it has been a great learning from you. I mean, thank you so much for your time, and I would sincerely request you to stay till the end, for the rest of the session, and
Sure.
wait for the vote of thanks also.
Sure, Tejas. Sure.
Yeah, please.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you very much. Yeah, bye. So our next speaker for today is Mr. Subhrajit Bhowmik from Cipla Healthcare. He would be speaking on the healthcare segment, and over to you, sir.
Hi, am I audible? Yeah, okay, fine.
Yes, sir. You're
Yeah, good afternoon to all. I'm speaking to a lot of people who are much more knowledgeable than of the subjects because they were from the printing industry and converting industry. So I will, I mean, because in my career I worked in both the industry. I also worked in converting industry, now into buying industry. So I can always relate you people to how you people must be how you people must be eager to know that what kind of perspective and what kind of thinking we think when there's a buyer side. Now coming to the Cipla Health. Now Cipla Health is basically a subsidiary unit of Cipla. So we are mostly taking care for the wellness business because our target is always help you people to not to get ill. So even though you get ill, Cipla Pharma is there, so they will take care of it. So we are both the way we are there for you people. So not to worry. I mean, in terms of pharmaceutical, we are substantially big name, and but Cipla Health is evolved in 4 years, and I am in this company for last 3 years. So fortunately and unfortunately, I take care of both the verticals, so development and procurement. So I mean, any development will end to me only in terms of commercial ordering also. So so I can always sense that which will be what are the development which people are working in my company or my brand, my people or something which can fit to the business in terms of commercial and in terms of the project feasibility. So that's way I can help you people to get some perspective surely. So motamoti and overall I will speak on something on the healthcare packaging industry, what we are mainly looking for, some of the specific need which has evolved recent time during this pandemic of last 1 year time. We have seen so many demand, so many dynamic changes and all this stuff, the virtually we are meeting today. So that is also, I think I'm doing the first time to addressing some people, because normally it is always into kind of in a room having some cocktail party to end with, but here possibly we will virtually celebrate. I mean, I'm seeing my old friend Biswarup for a long time, because we are a batchmate actually. So anyway, and some of the technology I'll touch, which is I feel as a very new, and which we also would like to explore. We are expecting that kind of technology should come from the converting industry, because our belief is that honestly we don't have that much of time to in the current scenario that we will think very differently or something out of the box. Yes, we try, but you people are specialized, so you people should come up, as Amit was saying, that our expectations from the converter is always come with the option which is ready to show, not like a concept, because the we are a very our industry in terms of packaging, and the demand from the brand or something changes very it changes very quickly. Like today they will ask for something which is a very specific shape of carton or flip top. Tomorrow they will say no by flip top the toot jata hai, no we need to have something different or some sort of thing. So we need to have our expectation, at least my expectation to the all the printer and converter, think like what is, and sit on my table and think what would be my requirement, think of my brand manager, that what will fit to my business. Then you come up and you take care of my product portfolio and see what are the new thing you can give, but come up with a dummy and say everything, because we don't have time. So I mean because if we see that, then only you can realize Are, ye to chahiye tha, and you people are bringing to me, and then immediately the business will turn around to you in terms of specific product or specific innovations. And COVID learning, I will tell you something about COVID learning, because I work for the packaging industry from last 19-20 years, but believe me, last one was magnificent. I mean, because the healthcare business actually we are doing good. COVID was a blessing for us, unfortunately, but and that is how our business has turned around to Cipla Health was a very small, and now we are a 400 crore turnover business. So you can understand that from 100 crore to 400 crore journey is only helped us for all the hand sanitizer, soap, hand wash, whatever we launch, and that. So that time we realized that how we in fact a lot of vendor who helped us, that I will like to thanks through this media and through these discussions also, that because I have seen a lot of vendor are so improvised and so they are so ready to adopt that changes, and that was help us to get all the material in time, all the changeover. So I will also touch upon that in this discussion. So I mean, see, basically in healthcare, if I come to, if I share a very technically and categorically, healthcare and pharma industry, two different industry, because in our case, aesthetics and the shelf look is very important, because it is a consumer choice. I mean, suppose if tomorrow if you go to buy a vitamin tablet or something, you can always always choose on whatever you'll ask for a multivitamin tablet, and then if you see something is a very protective, and typically if the packaging connotes to the healthness of that product somehow, that we also during consumer study we also ask a lot of people, like that this packaging, do you think this is fit into the health category? That kind of terminology we are coming, we always deal with. It's called health packaging. So the board have to be bit of rigid, so that it come customer will feel that so that's what we are mostly using cyber excel, even though we always try to from procurement side to move into gray bag, but unfortunately we cannot do that, because the brand manager always asks for something have to be hygiene, color, health, everything. And I will give a story, like we have a brand called Nicotex. Now Nicotex is basically for the smoker, to help them to get rid of the smoking habit. Now we always try to position this product as a it's not as a medicine. We always try to position this product as a something which is they should not shame off. So I mean, if they take a Nicotex gum in front of people, people should not think that he is in a rehabilitation sort of thing. So that is what we always try to have, that packaging so aesthetically beautiful. And if you see, we have so many format for that. We have a tin can which is flip top, so that when he'll take, somebody will think that okay fine, he's taking a mint. Even in flight also he may take it. People may other people may think is a taking a mint or something, happy dent or something. So but actually he's getting a nicotine. So that kind of perception for OTC is very very important. So we always ask or always expect to vendor to come back with some innovation which is fit to my OTC category, because categorically we are, our Cipla Health business is morely for wellness. So we have a product like a cough seal which is for yoga. Again we take it as a choice making. I don't think while buying a cough seal or something, doctor may not prescribe. You can always go, sometimes you have a sore throat or something, but you should have that kind of, you should not feel this is looks like a so pharma look. So that is how the changeover is happening in this healthcare industry specifically. So as a printer, as a converter, you people have to come back with that kind of perspective, that kind of packaging option, which like foil stamping, sometime cast and cure technology, some registered hologram, something which is parallelized PP laminated board, so that board looks very fancy and very premium. Something that sort is always our expectation from packaging development side. But yes, that have to be commercially fit to my budget. But unfortunately we have a budget, so we are not that much of cutthroat sort of business, which sometimes I have seen when I was in ITC personal care. Soap was a very cutthroat business, so it was always into the price game. But our case, all the converter will get a little bit of premium for their innovation. That is there. I mean, we are a healthy business. And similarly for whenever we develop something for any vendor, so our expectation, because we don't have a time nowadays, because the from the concept to realization time is very minimum. I mean, a brand manager will come to tomorrow that I want to launch a vitamin C with this, or I want to launch a something which is in energy drink, and then the expectation will like it have to come from tomorrow. It have to start supplying from tomorrow. Now in that kind of scenario, no, we all our expectation to all the printer and converter, that let's, you people should approach as a very formal costing template agreement, which help us, believe me, that help us whenever we take a decision. Because now that conventional buying process is now gone, that taking a 3 quotation from thin vendor and then give it to finance or something. So we always have a costing template agreed, which is the board cost, printing cost and all, and that kind of approach will help for decision making to first. I mean, that is one of the insight which you have seen during that kind of pandemic time also, because costing validation was also not, we don't have that liberty to having a validation and 3-party quotation. So that time all this agreement and template help us. So I think that kind of never think that your costing template you are sharing or you are opening your secrecy to us. Everybody knows nowadays that what is the board and whatever ink and all this thing. You put your margin, no issue. I mean, if you sustain, then only I'll sustain. If you don't give me the carton or something, I cannot sell my product. So we are very very clear in terms of partnership association. That is absolutely clear, and we also want you to leave so that I can also grow. And possibly something which is also come that we have seen that preference to the vendor is given who is having a bit of end-to-end arrangement. Like I have seen that I'll give you example. For example, during COVID time, when I used to buy a lot of bottle and label, the printed label. So in that time, getting plate from Bombay to Baddi was also a difficult time. So because the logistic was extremely fragile, and it was a extreme panicking that time. It was no connectivity. So selectively we choose to the vendor who has a plate making in their factory, who has a offline die punching machines, so that we can quickly get some quantity to cater into market, and in parallel that online die will reach, so that the volume, once the volume will pick up, then it will take to that kind of volume run. So I'm just saying that customization of your business, like you have a long-term long-run business which is for automatic die sort of thing, also have some one more flatbed type which helps us, like getting some minimum quantity to start, getting launch license. Get license, we need to have a printed label, finished label. So that is also a bit learning for us, and I think we are preferring to select that kind of vendor who has a bit of end-to-end arrangement, and also towards that end-to-end arrangement and sort of thing, and small MOQ to start with. Anything, anywhere, any business, whenever they are launching, even for a Cipla type of brand also, when you launch something, anything like we have a multivitamin, we have energy powder, we have so many things, but nobody now, people want to have a first test market and see that how the market responding. I'm sure it is, I mean, needless to say, the 10 product will launch, and I think 2 product will be win. And but also we'd like to see the 10 product to win market, so the customer has that variety to select. So the MOQ becomes a very crucial, and interestingly, a lot of converter we are working actually along with them now, which is for a laminate business. We also buy laminate, we also buy sort of Tetra Pak and different things. So we actually converted some of the printer who is the flexo printer in a narrow wave to supply us a laminate. So what they do, they have a small laminate machine, or they outsource laminate, which is a 2-ply structure, 3-ply structure, and then printed with a UV, so that my gloss is matching into my requirement. And in that term, I am actually replacing one reverse printed polyester. So that kind of thing also has been evolved because of the small MOQ based business. So I think all this printing business have immense type of diversification in terms of different business to supply. In fact, right now we are working on flexo machine of 500 width to convert into all our soap rubber business to have a monolayer, because that is what we are working. Because in flexo we have a very fantastic advantage of UV, because in our case all are secondary, like say soap and all. It's not a food product, so we are okay to have UV sort of technology. I mean, because normally people have apprehension that UV have some sort of smell or something, but in our case it's the best fit for a floor app and all this type. So that is what I think something I will be happy to have some kind of vendor who will be that kind of approach. And some of the technology which I like to share, I mean, I sense that this kind of technology will help for a future integration, because as we are saying that end-to-end integration is now, as I said, that we need to have something who will give me the full end-to-end service. Like for a label, I think in a label, I am working with a company and there are technology which is coming up, and I would like to share some animation if time permit. That in printing, actually in online you can make a PSA label. So you just at the end of the printing you put that station, and you don't need to depend on every Danielson or somebody like what other thing, SMI and all. They will ask for a label stock to have some MOQ, because that also evolved during my COVID time, because that time also was a huge crisis in terms of PP label stock for hand sanitizer. So the label stock was a kind of how can we distribute label stock for South Party, for North Party, or even West Party, whatever. So and then eventually I realized that why to have dependent on that kind of people, because there are machine which you can fit into your printing line. Then actually you can convert that reverse printed film to have a label stock, and top you can have the liner, and finally you can have your own label in your system. So you don't need to depend on anything for a label stock to buy. I think I have shared some video in a link to the team. They may like to share you once I will finish off the talk. Something like innovation, we are looking for a soft lenticular to come up, which is surely coming up. We are working on a lot of decoration in terms of brand promotion of having a soft lenticular tape, where it is a very flexible. And we are working on something for even label business, where my objective is to put a lenticular soft film based label, so that total so that the product characteristics and the product innovation I can display much more I think I can display much more story around that, right? In lenticular you have so many things you can actually play around, and till that lenticular was a very stiff board. Now it has moved to a soft film, and easily you can invest on a machine which you can actually make the lenticular pitch on your film, huh? So that machine is also now available in US. You can get that roller and you can convert the film to your lenticular base. Then you make a reverse printed, apply PSA online, and you are ready for a lenticular level to supply to people like us who are really looking for something innovation. And for a particularly for a healthcare business and pharma, some of the attribute is very interesting, and we are looking for like night glow sort of mark for my people who can immediately suppose somebody have a something which is urgent need, some because we also have a cough syrup or something. So if you put a night glow mark or something in night, also mother can see where they kept that cough syrup, and immediately he can get it and then give it to his son or something. That's sort of technology. I think is coming up. There are plenty. You people know much more than me. I'm very sure of that. But I think that all these things which I've learned during my 18-19 years experience, that innovation is absolutely important, and you people have to come up with innovation. But please understand, give me some option and give us some option which is really fit to our business. So study my business, understand what my product, do some homework, have some, don't always believe it, because we don't now. Early days, converter used to be like a tailor. Now we don't, we believe you are a ready-made supplier. So the changeover has been happened. So now I don't expect any printer like a print pan or somebody is like a tailor who will just get a label stock and print it. So they should come up with like a whatever the shop is there, no, 3-4 options, and I select there. So that is the expectation possibly. I mean, anyway, so
No, that is
and I think
quite impressive, sir. Quite impressive.
I can talk
Yeah.
for the 10 to 20
It's
minutes, but I'll pause it here. I think
yeah.
because
Yeah. So
packaging is very passionate subject for me, I think, though. So
no,
I always like to.
no. I mean,
Should
we
we
could
play the
understand the way
videos?
you're talking. You're very passionate about our. No, it's Prashant. I think he already explained. I think the video was more. I think he already explained. Do you want me to play the video, or we can start with question answer?
Depends. I mean, the
So
video will
Bhowmik,
be. Yeah, sorry.
yeah.
I think I'm not able to hear him.
So what Mr. Subhrajit is
I think we've lost Tejas.
I
okay.
think, yeah. I
We
think,
have a
No,
question.
I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back. I'm back. I guess I'm back. Yeah. So what Mr. Subhrajit was trying to
I think again, I think we lost Tejas. Tejas, I think you are mute, I guess.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah. I think,
Uh, so what Mr. Subhrajit was trying to highlight is that the pharma sector is no more just the pharma, but the entire healthcare sector. So we need to broaden our horizons. Also, your spin-offs with automations to speed up the processes were spot on. So
right.
lot many questions have come up. So we'll start with the questions
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first question is, with the menace of spurious drugs increasing year on year, but the healthcare segment too getting competitive, what are the security features you would recommend which are cost effective?
Yeah, yes, fine. I mean, security option is very important for us. I mean, we don't want to have any spurious product or something. Yes, we are also working on some of the brand. For example, Nicotex, which is the established brand, and we are working on some of the anti-counter measurement, which is kind of holographic registered holographic sort of sticker inbuilt during printing. Then we have some sort of different color technology which UV color can sense it. So this spurious, see, I tell you how I am looking at that counterfeiting is extremely crucial for pharmaceutical, where the counterfeiting option which vendor is suggesting, that needs some type of machine to detect or something. For us, during on the shelf mark, the buyer have to understand, okay, fine, this is a Cipla Health product. So we may not require something which is a very high level of technology, where people will check that through that camera or some sort of software, and then it will give that kind of input to him that okay, fine, this is authentic. But I will be preferring to have something into the printing design or decoration, where in the shelf customer can understand this is a pure product.
Great. Uh, so what is your opinion on differential standard of packaging for an export versus locally sold product, especially in something like pharma or food? Shouldn't our packaging standards comply with the first world?
See, I mean, for a local market, we go to the. I mean, see, for export, definitely for a pharmaceutical. See, I am. Please understand. We are not a pharma company. We don't follow all this, FDA and all this kind of an activity which Cipla Pharma is doing. So we also export. We also export, but our product is mostly positioning into OTC category. So we don't follow. We don't have that much of stringent sort of an exercise for supplying some to the US or Europe or something. But for local market, in the Indian market versus if I supply to somebody into outside, we take care of the functionality need and the product and packaging need, not something for the rules regulation driven. And then I need something that some term called as CIPLA, that this it need to have that much of that kind of approval or braille, all this stuff, which is not fit to my business, honestly. I mean, because that is what I mean, our business is we go to the necessity, not to the maximum possibility, because maximum possibility can be endless. We can go to the anything. We can have
Hmm.
we can select a vendor who is having a 5-star type of facility, then my cost will be also have to fit, right? So it can afford to the pharma company, because if that something doctor prescribe, you don't have any option, you have to buy that. But in our case, we are competitive into market. Even my energy drink will be sitting next to Biswarup's drink. So how can I sell it? I have to sell it through my health. I mean, with the competitiveness, right?
No, no, but what I was trying to ask, not as far as the Cipla Health or Cipla Pharma perspective, but
Mm-hmm.
overall, because of the experience you have,
Okay.
there is always a there's a distinguishing between a local product and an export product. There are different regulations which abide the two.
Mm-hmm.
So don't you think there has to be a generalized common platform for any kind of packaging, whether it is for local market or it's for the export market? That is the question which I was trying to ask you.
Mm, my
like
my
like in local market they usually say ye chalta hai, cost
Mhm.
competitive, isko kam karo. But in export, there are certain regulations. Companies are ready to pay that extra buck for it. Don't you think it should be a generalized kind of
No,
packaging?
no, I think then in that case, possibly we have to also look at that, buying power in US and buying power my rural. So because I can't have something which is very over engineered and over specified to fit into a generic packaging for or across export and local. Then I may not justice to my people who has a monthly earning or daily earning of 300 rupees bucks. They also need a vitamin tablet, right? So I have to also service to them. So yes, US people have money. If I say something, if I sell something to the Donald Trump or something, I'll be happy to have a fantastic packaging of a vitamin tablet, and I'll charge it like few grand. But for a rural area where also now, if after COVID, you must have seen that people and people are really looking for that kind of support, like vitamin C, multivitamin, and I feel proud that we are actually helping them quite a bit. Like, so that is what I am saying. We can't, our cost target is always have very stringent kind of benchmark. We have to look at they can also buy, and
Yeah.
also Cipla, and also to maintain the product quality, maintain the marketing, even maintain the people like me. There are a lot of cost also involved, right? So we have to mix and match.
True.
So I think this cannot be generic. I don't think export will be a fantastic packaging, huge cost. I can load the cost to the product there, but in domestic, no.
So there is a possibility that whatever we are exporting, it could be over-engineered. Could be.
Yes, could
Yeah.
be. Yeah, obviously. But
Yeah.
I am not the guy to. I know. Obviously, for pharma,
Yeah,
you
of
have to
course.
ask for someone. Yeah.
So one last question has come up. What is your take about elimination of plastics in packaging?
See, I don't think elimination of plastic is the option. Honestly, I mean, we should look at how we can make a packaging which is a recyclable. That is what our focus should be. Like for a that is what even we are working. Like I tell you, our jar, which is we are making as a plastic jar. The PET jar where we put that candy. We have a cough seal candy, which is menthol based. Then we have a blister. So the PET jar we are making, we are using 50% of PET, which is recycled. Now, because the PET getting recycled is a tough. It is not like other polymer where you can actually 30% use it, because once you make a PET bottle, because of the stage property, the PET IV, which is a critical important parameter for blowing, has reduced. So there are company in India, in Hyderabad or somebody, who buy that PET and convert it into the blowing grade again, because currently the PET jar and bottle, if I sell it as a scrap in fact, so then it will go to something which is a very low use, like making a road or something. But we are utilizing into our own value chain with the 50% using the recycled. So plastic, I am not very fond of banning, but yes, laminate, like laminate, which is a three-ply structure and heterogeneous structure, that should go into the similar sort of poly structure or something, and that is how the flexo printing of 500 will work on. I'm very bullish on that market.
So thank you so much, sir, for your time and valuable insights to our industry. We would request you to stick around till the end of the session and wait for the vote of thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we get to our next speaker, Mr. Biswarup Chakrabarty. He's from ITC Foods, and he'll be talking briefly about the food industry. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, there was a little problem with unmuting. Thanks, Tejas. I would like to share my screen, so I hope I can do that, right?
Go ahead, you can share your screen.
Yeah.
Just let me know if you can see my screen.
All clear, sir.
Okay, thanks. Okay, first of all, at the outset, I'd like to thank Bombay Master Printers Association, Karomi, Tejas, and Mr. Fahim particularly for having me here. It's indeed a great pleasure to be among all of us. At last count, I think we were close to 100 people together. It is indeed a great pleasure. now, without spending any further time on this, let me get straight to the topic. And first question that comes to my mind, if I were to ask you, those of you who are attending, one question which would always be there is, why are you here? What is your expectation? And many of you, if I were to ask you that question, would come up with something like this: what, to understand a little bit better, what does your customer want, right? And if you ask your colleagues who are in the sales function, or people who deal with your customer, they would give you the answer: customer wants everything, but without having to spend for it. And it's true. I mean, we want everything, but we don't want to. We want it at the cheapest price. But truly speaking, the question that needs to be asked is, what does my consumer really want? Mind you, there's a difference between a customer and a consumer. For you, the customer may be us, but ultimate consumer is the person who pays the money, right? At the end of the day, if there's a 10 rupee product, it is the final buyer of the product to consumer who is paying the 10 rupee, and all of us in the supply chain are trying to get a pie out of it, right? It is ultimately his 10 rupee, and we all are meeting his expectation. So this is the perspective through which I would like to look at today's session, from the consumer perspective, and try and explain, a couple of things from the consumer perspective, which we believe we understand a little better because we are a consumer-facing, fast-moving consumer company. Okay, now getting into what a buyer looks for, specific. And like I said earlier, a buyer would look for all the three things, everything in fact: price, service, quality. Somebody who has quality and service but is expensive is not competitive. Somebody who has service and price but it does not have quality, it does not have reputation, you don't buy from them. Somebody who has quality and price but is not able to service, is not supportive enough for you. So you are looking for all of this. So I would like to look at, over the next few slides, all these three aspects from the prism of consumer. And first and foremost, let me get into this so-called, secretive subject of price. I think there was a question also in that area. So I said, let us address this head on. Let us take the secretive one first. So it is important to note that, your price makes our price, and our price is the consumer's cost. So at the end of the day, like I said, it is the same 10 rupee which the consumer is spending. We all are trying to get a pie out of it. So what your price that you give, the price that you sell it, is a very, very important component in the ultimate consumer price. And if you look at consumer price, and you look at it from the psychology of pricing, and this is particularly, I've tried to look at it from an Indian psychology point of view, it is there are some very interesting things. First is the price point game. 1 rupee, 5 rupee, 10 rupee, and maybe 20 rupee. Wherever these price points exist, you can take it from me. It is very, very difficult to move away from this price point. Wherever it exists, this is where it sells. I'll give you one example. A couple of years in the past, we, with other leading players in the industry, we all collectively said, some things are not viable. Let us try and together change the price. We together change the price. That product died down, right? So there's something more to it. It is not about whether a 5 rupee consumer is able to pay 6 rupee or not. It is something more to it. We all thought that, when the digitization happened, digital economies started booming, price point coins did not matter, price points will change. But it did not change. There's something more to this whole thing. Why Indian consumers stick on to this price point. So wherever price points are there, you can do some other things to the extent possible. You can probably reduce a couple of grams from the product. That will still be acceptable, but you cannot change this price point. It's that rigid. And wherever it does not exist, say for in case of things like atta, where price point does not exist, indexation is very strong. Again, it is a little strange to understand how indexation works in this kind of segment, because as a packaged atta, as a branded atta, as the market leader of atta, Ashirwad commands a premium over wheat, and that's known to the consumer. But that the quantum of that premium or the indexation to wheat price is very, very rigid. Say in a market, if I am the number one player, which incidentally in most of the market we are, the number two player will have an index which is lower than me. Now I am anyway the market leader. I am anyway indexed higher than the local player. But still, if I try to change my price and change the index to wheat, then there is a huge backlash which happens. If wheat price goes up, you also move accordingly. There's no problem. It is accepted. Now, if you look at these two themes together, then probably the retailer somewhere comes in the picture. While consumer may be willing to pay 50 paisa more, it may not matter to every consumer. It does matter to some consumer for sure. But retailer is a businessman. He does these calculations. आपका पेटी इतने में आता है, ब्रिटानिया का पेटी तो उतने में आता है, right? Those kind of things plays very importantly. These are very tough realities of this market, which you have to. These are the rules through which you have to play the game. Now, given this context, where prices are, more or less constant, there is indexation. If the raw material increases, then your price increases. If it is a price point-led game, it is a price point, right? Where prices are more or less constant, and where your price, our print partner's price, or packaging partner's price is a very important component of what price the consumer pays. Let me try and look at how these two are connected. And like, I said, this is the very secretive part of the whole thing. People are not very open about it, but I thought, let me, like somebody, I think Bhowmik said, cost sheets of printers are known to us. So I thought, let us begin from ourselves, and let me open this up to some extent, to the extent that I can. So this is a very common price point kind of product. MRP rupees 10, a 50 gram kind of product. It can be anything. Maybe food, may not be food. I have taken it from the food perspective. So first thing to note is that 10 rupees the MRP of the product. NSR, which we call as net sales revenue, is about 6.5 rupees. What goes in between is GST, distributor margin, retailer margin, the schemes that we run in the market. There has to be some amount for damages which happen in transit, etc. So all this put together, 4.5 rupees gone. Roughly about 6.5, 6.2, 6.8, it may be. That's the kind of money which we bill it. And this is the amount on which our turnovers are reported. When we say ITC Foods is 10,000 crore or 12,000 crore, this is on this NSR value. Consumer spend is a value which is only for internal digging and all. It is not the money which we get, right? So first of all, any 10 rupee product is not 10 rupees, it is 6.5 rupees. Mind you that. Now, I have considered 75 rupees per kg. Say, if you consider this to be a biscuit or similar kind of a product. Those of you all who do your daily shopping would know, maida is at 40 rupees a kg, sugar is at 40 rupees a kg, butter is at 200 rupees a kg. So all put together, 75 rupees, I think is a fair estimate. So that takes, for 50 gram, that becomes 3 rupees 75 paisa. Conversion, I put, for the sake of simplicity, I put a number of 1 so that calculation becomes simple. Actually, it is slightly more than that only, if you look at any of our biscuit products or things like that. Freight and distribution, I've considered 10 rupee per kg. In a volume cargo, 5 rupee to freight hoga hi hoga. And when you talk about distribution, it also includes the cost of your sales force, etc., etc. After this comes the PM. Now, and the contribution margin, right? Now, if you do your math, if the PM is at half a rupee, what we make is 11.5% margin over the NSR. If it is a 0.25 rupees, we make 15.3% margin over the NSR. And mind you, this is not our profit margin. This is the margin. After this line is all our fixed cost, our marketing cost, everything comes below this. So this is the business we are into. And this is where you pitch in. And this perhaps in some way explains why in FMCG industry, people are so stringent about 5 paisa, 6 paisa, 3 paisa. because this is the difference. Anyway, it is a low margin business, and your 25 paisa may increase the contribution margin by 5%, right? So that this is how it looks like. Maybe I have been able to explain our part of the story a little bit in this slide. It may not solve your problem, but maybe you will appreciate the consumer's problem a little bit. Having said that, what kind of partners or customers we are looking at? Do we look at only price? Well, no. Like Bhowmik was talking about, I think, if you do a 2x2 matrix, on the y-axis is the price at which you sell, and on the x-axis is the profit that you make. Then, the first one, where your price is high and you don't make money, is an inefficient supply. This is a big no-no. There's something wrong with that business. Top right is also not a very great place to be in. Where your price is high and your profit is also high, you may need a very different proposition to sustain in that segment. You need to be industry leader in something else which nobody else can give to sustain it in that segment. Bottom left corner, these are the people who are who needs to be supported. They also don't make money. They are giving you a low price and they are also not making money. So this is not a very sustainable position. The best kind of supplier which we look for is where the tick is, where you make profit and your prices are low. Because because you make profit, you can invest in developments. You can invest in improving things. And with you, I also have, in times of need, I also have a negotiation power because you are making some money there, right? So this is the box where we look at suppliers. I think that's all I'll talk about price. Let me move to the next vector of quality. In quality, we should look at quality as a value. It is not meeting standard. Quality is not meeting standard. I'll just try to explain what I mean by this. If you do a value curve analysis is something which we keep doing for our product. A value curve analysis, basically you on the x-axis, you plot the values that you think your product delivers, or different features which you think your product delivers, and on the y-axis, you plot your competitiveness with respect to competition, or how you rate it in a scale of 1:10 or things like that. So here, this is an example of a traditional airline versus a budget airline. So you plot these two curves. Now, the important thing after that is to plot the consumer's value curve on top of it. If you superimpose the consumer's value curve on top of it, you may find some very, very interesting things which will come out. Because some things, low fare, consumer may be interested in. Luxury, you may think they're not interested, but maybe once in a while when you travel in an airline, you may be looking at luxury. Or for a business traveler, anyway, it is a tight day, you do a morning, evening, you may be looking at luxury. So what the consumer values, when it is superimposed with your value curve, it gives you very interesting observations. And the ones which factor high in consumer's value curve are the factors on which quality needs to be controlled. Quality needs to be very, very strong. See, some observations which might come out is like, the consumer's value curve may be very different from your value curve and vice versa. And some of the value curve factors may be conscious and some may be subconscious for the consumer also. So let me explain these two a little bit more. Say, for example, if you're talking about a carton, if you look at standard, GSM is the first standard which will come everywhere. We all measure GSM, right? But GSM, what value does GSM have for the consumer? Does it really have any value? Maybe stiffness of the board has got. We are doing a pseudo measurement for stiffness through GSM, and we are controlling our quality parameters on GSM very strongly. But whereas that factor for consumer has very little value or no value at all, right? So it is very important to pinpoint what is the right value for the consumer, and on those factors be very strong about quality. Other factors are not that important. I mean, anything is not important if it is not important for the consumer, right? And the conscious and subconscious bit, if you may say that if you ask a consumer how important is the print effect on a carton, I'll be surprised if some consumers say it's very, very important. They'll say, oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm anyway buying the product. How does it matter what it is printed? But you try this. You try giving misregistered cartons to the market on lot after lot. You try giving faded colors and see what happens to your sale. So these are subconscious values which a consumer has got. So the consumer will have, if you ask them to articulate, they'll not articulate it. But they perceive the quality of the product, the consistency of the product, the value of the product from the consistency of these factors. So it is important to note the conscious one as well as subconscious one. And these values are also not a constant. They are constantly changing. Value for consumer, value overall in this system is also constantly changing. Now, moving on to how these value factors are changing, how the changing value factor. They are changing for consumer, they're changing because of regulators coming in, these are changing because of new age commerce coming in. So these are the various factors which are changing the value curve and the value factor. Now, looking at e-commerce first, e-commerce requires the packaging to be e-commerce supply chain friendly. Because at the end of the day, e-commerce, the delivery system is very, very different. The product has to withstand that kind of a delivery system and be in a pristine form. It also gives you some advantage when you are doing it in a modern trade, etc. Your pack is what sells. What consumer sees and picks it up. So if there's a little bit of wrinkle, they may not pick it up. In e-commerce, you may say that that's not important. I can put a very beautiful photograph, and ultimately what he gets is it's different from what he sees, right? So that it gives you that bit of advantage, but there comes the expectation versus reality one thing. If you consistently are not show something else and deliver something else, it will be difficult for you to sustain your position. Similarly, from the consumer point of view, consumers are increasingly becoming environmentally cautious. They're becoming more and more evolved consumer as a whole. And this, from a printing, paper printing, board printing perspective, also throws a lot of challenge as well as some opportunities, because paper is considered by the consumer as very environment friendly. So there is really an opportunity over there. We will talk about it a little bit later. From the regulatory perspective, again, environmental regulations, safety regulations are increasingly coming in, which are changing the value curve. So something which was not important earlier has become important because the regulations are driving us in that direction, and consumers are driving us in that direction. Now, among all these things, moving forward, I would like to pick up this environmental part of it and discuss the interface of environment and packaging over next 4-5 slides, because I thought that is an important area. And when you talk about environment, what comes immediately is plastic. Plastic is bad. But what is really wrong with plastics? If you really ask this question, what's wrong with plastics? Obviously, this is what is wrong with plastics, right? This, anybody you show you, they'll say that, yes, this is what is wrong with plastics. But there are various aspects of this plastic problem, or plastic waste problem. As we say, this is not a plastic problem; it's a plastic waste problem. There are various perspectives from which you can look at it. There's a social perspective. There is a industrial perspective, which people like you and me talk about, right? There is a regulator's perspective, but above all, again, there is a common perception or consumer perspective to it. So I have tried to look at it from the perspective of myths versus realities. Just 1 second, I just need to move this thing a little bit. I'm not able to see my screen. So what are the realities and what are the myths around plastics? The reality is that they are not biodegradable, they are not based on renewable resources, multi-layer, multi-material laminates are not recyclable by conventional method. If burned, they produce toxic fumes, and they emit greenhouse gases. But greenhouse gases are emitted by any industrial process, even agriculture would do that. And what are the myths, which are in fact more dangerous for people like us and people like you also who are in the plastic industry? Myths that plastic itself is harmful. It is not very safe to use it for food packaging, thin plastics migrate to product, plastic which are not marked microwave safe contaminate product in the microwave, plastic on its own causes pollution of air and water. All non-plastic options are better, right? what I talked about, paper is very good and all. Paper is good, but all non-plastic options, metal, etc., everything is considered to be better than plastic. Yeah, recently we have seen all water bottles sort of drifting toward metal water bottle and all. Biodegradable plastics are a complete solution. Multi-layer plastic has no reuse or possibility at all. These are the means. So I will try to address quickly one by one a couple of these means. Plastic is harmful for human being. Plastics are macromolecule. All of us would know. And despite years of environmental abuse, they do not degenerate. So it is and it is also one of the most inert material. In our chemistry classes, some of the acids were only plastic friendly, not even glass friendly, right? So it's very, very difficult to imagine how it can be harmful for human beings, how it can interact with this thing. Most common plastic, except these which I have listed out, vinyl chloride, styrene, and BPA, wala plastics, are are considered safe for human consumption. Plastic is marked microwave safe or not safe based on the softening temperature, and not because they migrate to the food. You don't want your bowl to be deformed in microwave. That's why it is said microwave safe and not safe. And plastic which are used in food packaging meets all global standards in terms of specific migration limit, as well as Indian standards. Right? So moving on to the next area. But there are certain realities. If dyes are used, they might migrate. If some of the additives might migrate. If polymerization do not happen properly, those free monomers might migrate. So these issues are always there. One second. Yeah. Second one is plastic pollutes on its own. Plastic pollutes air and water on its own. If plastic is food safe and it does not degenerate, how can it pollute? But again, there are issues. It is not that this is a myth that it pollutes on its own, but it clogs drain. It makes land barren. When burned, produce toxic fumes. So these are the realities. All non-plastic options are better. You have to do a product life cycle analysis to get to this. If you do a product life cycle analysis in which you look at multiple factors like global warming, water consumption, non-renewable energy uses, ecotoxicity, etc., you may be surprised to see that what you consider as very environment friendly is actually more harmful than plastic. This is one example where a milk bottle is plotted. You in terms of energy consumption, you can see glass is way higher than any other thing, because glass uses a lot of energy. If you try to plot, say, some bags, paper bag versus plastic bag, etc., again, at number of times that is used, you see that incidentally, starch polystyrene, which is a biodegradable polymer, has the highest potential of global warming. So these are the realities. But paper is completely recyclable in the conventional recyclable system, and that is where the opportunity of the paper comes in. The problem with paper is that it does not provide the barrier or the mechanical strength. So this is one area where we would love the industry to work. We are also working in this area because consumer also perceive paper as friendly. There is a very set ecosystem of paper recycling, which is already available. So it simply gets into that recycling stream. But the problem is with how do you make it machine runnable? How do you bring in some barrier? How do you bring in some sealability into it? So this is one interesting area in which we are working, and we would this is something which is of interest to would be of interest to many FMCG players in India and globally. The other one, biodegradable solutions, a complete solution. Again, like I said, biodegradable solution, most of them degrade only in compost. They are severely compromised in terms of their quality. They cost multiple times. They eat up on food supply chain. Some of them biofragment, and it cannot mix with conventional plastic in recycling stream. So all those issues are there with biodegradable plastic. The biodegradable, renewable plastics do have the advantage of reducing greenhouse gas emission, but they eat on the food supply chain because they are made out of agri kind of product, starch, etc. kind of things. Other one is if you to the property part of it, if you have to match the property of say PET or PP, you might have to use many more times of this kind of plastic. So what you gain by through this plastic, you lose because you use much more of it. So, and the last one, multi-layer plastics has no use. It is not true. There are quite a few use, but the bottom line remains that these plastics are not very friendly for conventional recycling stream. It has to go to a different pyrolysis, gasification, road making, or cement industry, or something like that. But there are usages, but it is not very easy to do it. So what is the solution? Solution lies in reduce, reuse, recycle. Recycle, I would particularly emphasize on, because reduce and reuse has limitation at the end of the day, how much you can reduce and how many reuse you can do. But recycle is the one which probably has the future for us. Now coming on to this one subject, which even I did not have an answer till a couple of years back. How does monomaterial in multi-layer plastic help recycling? Yes, it does help recycling, but look at this picture again. Do you think if it is monomaterial, it will get into recycle stream? How does it matter? Will people look at the numbers, the small number that we print, and because it is monomaterial, it will go into recycle stream? I think it's very difficult. But suddenly one day I was discussing with somebody, and this thought suddenly came out. Imagine this whole thing. As a you don't have to do any segregation. If all your plastic wastes become one monomaterial, which is polyolefin, then the whole scenario starts changing. Because then from the household, you don't pick up one biscuit packet. At the end of the day, all put together, you may be having some 100 grams of plastic, right? When it is segregated at your society level, it may be few kgs of plastic, or maybe few 100 kgs of plastic also. And there is no segregation required there, because it's all the same. And it gets into the supply chain of recycling. That's where the advantage of monomaterial comes from. And this is very important, because in this direction, as I change my material to monomaterial today, I am not helping recycling tomorrow, because it is not getting picked up even after it is made monomaterial. But going forward, when all of us put together, all FMCG companies, all companies put together, change everything to polyolefin, then you have suddenly solved the problem which was looking of this magnitude. Right? Because if everything is polyolefin, there's no segregation required. Everything goes into one channel. Right? So that's where the solution is. And that's where that's what people are working towards. But it will not happen as I move. Index will keep moving, but as you move, when everybody moves to that stage, it will suddenly take a quantum jump. And that's again something which people in the board printing industry also need to keep in mind, because when you composite, when you do lamination, etc., though these are out of the ambit of these laws today, but going forward, we do see that it does not get into paper recycling stream if you do a polyester lamination or a BOPP lamination on top, right? So these are the areas which needs to be focused on. Coming to the last one, service. I just 2 slides in this area because everybody has talked about this area. But here, for us, customer loyalty comes from exceeding expectation and not from meeting them. So if you meet customer expectation, you cannot hope to retain and grow your business. Yeah, he has paid 10 rupees for his product and he's got his product, but you can't expect to grow from it. You have to exceed their expectation. And in a supply chain, you can exceed customer expectation only through the effort of the full supply chain. And at the end of the day, like I started my talk, we all are part of a supply chain for meeting that 10 rupee customers need, right? And we all are playing different cogs in the wheel, and until and unless all of us drive our efforts towards that end customer satisfaction, I don't think you can achieve or exceed their expectation. Service level goes much beyond OTIF. OTIF is of course the bare minimum which is required, but service level goes much beyond OTIF. This is again something which I was probably talking with Tejas. I have an example here, during the pandemic, we were a foods organization, we were allowed to operate, but our suppliers were packaging material suppliers. So they had problems, right? So some of them, they were able to engage with the authorities very constructively and make it happen. Some of them took our help. We gave letters, etc., and it happened. Some of them just could not, because they could not get their hands with the authorities. So these are also service level. This is of course an extraordinary situation, but nobody knows that these extraordinary situations will not come again. So these are also at one level, service level. Somebody was talking about, minimum print run, MOQs, etc. MOQs is very, very interesting subject. You might think that why would ITC food division want low MOQ? Because, at the end of the day, we are a 10,000, 12,000 crore company, division, I would say. But, every mass of today was a niche at some point of time. You start with a niche for it to become mass, right? So, and for that niche to sustain, you need low MOQs. So some people have done very, very interesting work, like Bhowmik was talking about it in Flexo space. Some people have married the concepts of digital printing into Flexo, because digital printing comes with a very high cost. Per click cost comes into picture, etc., etc. So they took Flexo and use the fundamental concepts of digital. Hexachrome ink, no ink change, standard ink density printing. We are working with those people, and it's phenomenal. I mean, what we could not launch a couple of years back has suddenly become possible because of this one single intervention. Now I can print 50 kg of laminate and test market something. So these are the kind of things, which also comes in service, where we apply our innovative mind. This is one example where somebody looked at the market. Let me play out a niche, and let me not be the mass printing packaging material supplier. And he has done something. There is enough opportunity in this kind of areas, finding your own niche, and those niches can also command lot more margin, if not lot more price. And the last thought, this is the last slide. Are we connected enough in this connected world? I don't think we are. When we are talking about everything being connected now, we can do meetings on digital platform, we can send money in no time, etc., etc. But when it comes to our print partners, our packaging partners, and us, I don't think we are connected enough. Can our development platforms talk to each other? Why not? They can. We are working on our web center to make the web center available to our printers. What it does is, it saves some of my team's energy. It saves some of my team's time. It saves some of the print partners' time. So it's a win-win. And there is nothing, ultimately the artwork goes to him, he only prints. What is secretive about it? Why can't we interconnect both the things? And moving one step ahead, can our ERPs talk to each other? Imagine a scenario, where my ERP is available to you in a limited way or whatever, and you can see what is my projection for next month. You can buy your material basis then. Yes, first thing that will come to my mind is I am giving my next month's projection out into the market. But the fact is that if you are a sole supplier, or if there are 3 suppliers supplying to me for one given material, they know what they've supplied this month. So what is so big about disclosing what I'm going to do next month, right? This month's volume multiplied by something will be next month's, right? So I don't think it is that kind of a tough thing. Or from your perspective, again, you would say that if I show my board stock, etc., if I don't have stock, the order will not come to me. Yes, it will not come to me. But probably in the whole thing, we all will also evolve. Our efficiency will evolve. This is how the whole efficiency in the system will evolve. So this is the last thought with which I think I've exceeded my time. I would like to end my discussion. Thank you very much.
So just one word thing, this is brilliant. This is wonderful what you've spoken about. And now now we all know the negotiations that happen in packaging products. What is the reason behind it? And thank you, Mr. Biswarup, for highlighting the same. Also, ITC is always known for its sustainability model, and we as a packaging industry should aspire to replicate. So now the question answer time. The first question which I would like to ask you is, with the FSSAI guidelines and regulations getting stricter and evolving at a breakneck speed, would you recommend our viewers packaging industry for any technological innovations, investments with respect to end user perspective?
I think it's a very apt question, given that regulations are constantly changing and the regulations are evolving. But at the end of the day, FSSAI and Ministry of Environment and other government, what they're doing is they're regulating very, very fundamental areas. Their regulations are very, very fundamental in nature. Ultimately, it is about environmental safety and it is about human safety. If you look at the intent of those regulations. And I think we as the industry need to be proactive in identifying those areas which are risky and take preemptive action, whether the regulations are there or not. Of course, if regulations are there, we need to comply, and there is no question about it. But I think we need to be ahead of the regulation rather than following the regulation. That is one. Not many of these compliances require a lot of investment. Yes, if you really want to invest, considering that UV may be banned in future in food packaging, etc., you want to invest in something like E-beam, you can do that. But most of the changes requires process change, material change, and things like that, and mindset change above all. So I think we need to be proactive. Of course, we need to, whatever regulation is there, we will follow that. FSSAI has banned toluene, so we are mandating that no toluene should be used in our printing, packaging, etc. And the industry also needs to preempt and be ready before regulation rather than be reactive. That's all.
Correct. One question I would like to ask you is, what is the status on low migration with respect for secondary food packaging?
Secondary food packaging, as far as we know, is still out of this ambit, because primary packaging is supposed to ensure that nothing comes from outside. Right. And it is expected to also remain so, because primary packaging, you are not allowed to have a primary packaging in food which is not really hermetic in nature.
Correct. So thank you so much, sir, for your time. And I would request you to stick till the end, if possible. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. So our next speaker for today is Mr. Sangam Khanna. So now we heard the entire perception about the buyers and what all expectation they have for us. Now, Mr. Sangam Khanna will definitely try to bridge this gap so that we have a technology to actually meet the expectation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Tejas, and I must say that we've got a very, very absorbing session from Mr. Amit, Mr. Biswarup, and Mr. Bhowmik. In fact, some of the eye-openers I got from the last speaker, Mr. Biswarup, and ultimately, what I have understood is that you call all the purchase people. Once upon a time, 100 years back, I was a purchase person, so I could relate what they feel. And some of the main points which I've gathered from a buyer's point of view, and the main points which I've noticed in this is that how to reduce the cost of packaging purchase. That's what my friend Biswarup wanted to say, and so did Mr. Amit hint out. And another thing is reliable supply chain delivering each time, every time. Centralized purchase and decentralized supply. Centralized purchase and decentralized supply means a printer sitting in Guwahati or a printer sitting in Chennai or a printer sitting in Ahmedabad or somewhere up north in Badi should be in a position to supply the same thing what the customer needs. So it means decentralizing the supply and purchase at same point. How do we reduce the wastages and the rejection on the shop floor? How to standardize the purchase from different vendors? And how do we address the new technologies for a chemical-free world? Because this is a very, very important thing which will be coming up every time you get into something. How do we reduce the inventory to near zero? Because inventory is cost. Is my print converter digitally ready to address my concerns and my needs? How do we ensure that the print converter will have a negligible breakdown time so that he is considered to be a reliable supply source? Can the customer's purchase management get the data of the product quality consistency digitally? Can the purchase also get a data of the real-time production MIS? A unique packaging solution out of the box. Now, this is something which Mr. Bhowmik had touched upon. I will touch it up in my further presentation. Kumori has a solution to most of these problems. Of course, we won hearts of most of our Indian customers and have gained a market share of over 50%. And Kumori, we believe that the fastest ROI using the Kumori advanced technologies. So to understand what is the cost, understanding the cost is an open book. Paper, which consists of 70 to 85% of the cost, inks, plates, chemicals, finishing, labor costs, transportation, infrastructure costs add up to 15 to 30% of the total cost. This is an open book. Nobody needs to do any rocket science in this. So understanding what can we do about it. So what are we playing on? We are playing on the 15 to 30% to optimize our conversion cost. Now, how do we optimize on the conversion cost? Cost of paper is a waste because the wastages which we generate is a cost to us. The cost of ink or the ink wasted, the plates, chemicals, finishing processes, manpower loss, loss of operations, these are cost to us. These are cost centers. So in any product which we see, there's a cost center and there's a profit center. So the cost centers we've identified, and I must acknowledge that Sidney Yoshida's example, the top executives know only 4% of the problems which go around. I'm not saying that may apply to you, but in most of the MSMEs, 4% of the problems are known to the executives, 9% are known to the team managers, 74% of the problems are known to the team leaders, and 100% of that is known to the staff. There is a loss of 13%, which is a communication gap, which will happen in any way. It's like a Chinese whisper. When one person tells to the other, there is a loss of transaction. So 13% loss. So understanding what is going wrong where. So if we can identify what is going wrong where, I think most of the problems can be solved. So, Kumari, we did a small survey and we found out that all our print converters are sitting on a gold mine, which is lying, and probably we couldn't see it so well. The real situation and productivity, Kumori finding globally across the world, we did a survey of about 31 companies. We found out that there is a non-operating cost to a machine or to an asset is almost 67% and only productive time is 33%. Now, understanding this and acknowledging this was an eye-opener even for Kumori. We always thought that our print converters are printing 24 hours, they're doing hard work, we used to sympathize with them, and to understand, we still do sympathize with them, understanding that these costs are fixed costs, and this 67% is a perishable time. This time will never ever come back to us. So if it is perishable, so if we did not cash it today, it never ever would get cashed. So when we did a quick ROI internally, the utilization, overall equipment effectiveness, performance, and quality. So production hours divided by the working hours, we found out some real eye-openers, which says that the machine condition related to the maintenance of the machine and material was a key factor. Because although our print converters bought a very expensive equipment from us, if they did not maintain it or they did not use the right material to produce, we were back to square one. Color matching took a lot of time because you get a Pantone shade and you're going up and down the ink kitchen or the ink supplier and you're going all bonkers. And operating procedures or operator skills was also a very, very big challenge because you buy as a print owner, you can buy a very expensive equipment, but if your operation level is not skilled enough, that is of no use. So buying an asset which is very expensive and the operator does know how to use that asset or optimize on it, that is a challenge by itself. So understanding and going deep into this, we found that 15% of the problem lied in the operational procedures of a packaging customer. And 30% of this time loss went in color matching. And 52% of this, which is the larger chunk of it, is on the machine condition or the maintenance. So if we could arrest these three basic verticals, I think most of the battle we could win. Now, how can we do this? It is not easy to just think about it. Yes, we at Kumori can help you arrive to this. So acknowledging the waste is very, very important. We at Kumori noticed the main reasons of loss being downtime, because if you did not maintain your press, you have a higher downtime. And of course, then there is a paper loss. When you have a paper loss, you also have an ink loss, you have a chemical loss, and of course, a process loss. These are factors which are controllable and very much within our own hands. And of course, if you have a skill level of operations, most of these things can be taken care of. Now, understanding the new currency globally is the data and the analysis. So, understanding what is the big data and quick analysis. The big data will give us a real-time solution. So, Kumori maybe 5 years back, we started developing the KP Connect Pro for smart factories. So this data can go from the printing company to the cloud and get processed from the Komori server and be given back to you in real time. When we say that you can get the data without information, but you cannot have information without data. So understanding this is very, very critical for us for an analytical way forward. So operations data collected by the connector uploads to the cloud, and we can configure the entire press room. That would include your pre-press, your digital press, your printing press, your die cutting, you name it, and we can club this and give you a real-time MIS. A real-time MIS is where nobody needs to touch anything on this. So if we see a KP Connect Pro is a very smart way of working, and it generates a smart report. So we do not need junk. In a smart report, you get a specific data, measurable qualitative data, actionable data. Because today you can get a data, but how do you analyze that? How do you put it to action? If there is no call to action on this data, we are going haywire. So we need accurate data, actionable data, which will drive us to a solution and relevant. If it is relevant to us, it is important. If we give you data which is of no use to anybody, it's of no meaning, and it has to be time bound. So if you get all these 5 things in real time, I think most of our problems can be arrested. I don't think that without this, it is this kind of a smart solution, it would be possible. However, when we look at the KP Connect Pro, it's an AI-based data analyst, and it identifies the leakage. It gives us a real-time countermeasure, because real-time countermeasure is very, very important. And if you get a countermeasure when you have a problem on the press, or there is a operation which you are not doing right, or there is a wastage which is happening, if you get an error after 2 hours or 3 hours, it's of no use. You need it now. So from waiting for something and to taking it now is the way to move forward. And by using this, you can do an optimum press scheduling. So if you are using certain colors for a customer, you can also optimize this, understanding the real-time solution. Of course, you can do your sales scheduling in this. You can commit to your customers better. Customer feedback mechanisms you can take, and real-time update linked to your ERP. So you can link this to your ERP, which will tell you everything, and it will send an alert to all the concerned people through an email. And you can also program this to give an alert to the press manager, the owner, or even to your customers. Like Mr. Biswarup just said, how can we link the 2 ERPs? Yes, you can. It's very much possible today. So inventory control is very, very important, which we can pick up from your ERP. It will tell you that, look here, you're doing this job, and you don't have paper for this, please order. Or you need this kind of a Pantone shade, please do. And it will give you a press breakdown assistance. Means if you cannot understand something, it's got on an AI and tell you which cover you left open, and you can shut it down so that it gets into action, because with sophisticated equipment, you need an assistance. And it will also tell you that, Mr. Customer, Mr. Print Converter, you did not maintain your press. I'm giving you a warning today. Please call up Komori and get a preventive check done. It's time for you to get a maintenance done. And if an operator has forgotten to do a certain skill part or a skill level, he will also teach this guy. He can go into the log and push the button to check what operation he missed out. A small video will play up to show that yes, he could do it. So understanding this, green certification we got in 2010. Now, green certification is in most countries that time was still a fashion, but we realized that about 11 years back that this is the way forward. And most organizations in India would just laugh at us when we said, well, look here, we're going to give you a green press. He said, okay, you leave the green part of it. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the cost of the equipment. So when we started saying green, people probably used to make fun of me. And today, most large organizations and even the MSMEs respect the green certifications by which we can look for a healthier environment. Pollution control has become very, very important for us, for all of us today, especially in larger metros. And energy saving is very, very critical because energy is money, because it's going directly from my balance sheet. So if we can save 20 to 40% of the energy cost, why not? And of course, safety has always been a key for everybody. So smart inventory only is what needed is just print that. Don't print everything. Don't block your space. Today, most organizations today need to buy and keep what they need. They don't need to buy what they don't need. So blocking space in your factory is also a pain for most purchase people or even for print converters. So product color, design change, marketing changing boxes, colors or carton colors at very short notice is also a headache for everybody. So chances of wastage are very high because if you printed something, what do you do with it? You can't throw it, you can't bill it, then you keep going up and down. Okay, we'll try and see how we can cover you. So reduce wastage in factory is very, very important. So most important in this, coming out from this as businessmen, we must understand that liquidity is very important. So the smaller you print, the shorter the quantity you give to your customer, the happier he is, the happier you are. Of course, there will be places where they will say, no, reduce the cost, print more. Those conditions are very different. Because when I was listening to all the three panelists before me, all of them said, we are looking for short run. We need very short run. So when you need a very short run, this is a solution. So from a print converter's point of view, it is very important for us to understand short run or very short run is real today. So we can print small or very small runs at short notices. We would make you capable of doing it, working on smart inventory. So if you standardize your paper sizes and paper grammages, I think you can standardize most of your work and get on to just printing what you need. And of course, maintain the desired stocks which you need. You need not do everything in one go and reprinting the same job each time, every time, same results is the way to go forward. And of course, it will always give you a better liquidity in your pocket. You need not be giving a bill to your customer who say, okay, I'll pay you once I've finished this product. So Commodity Solutions is using the smart color solution. We understand that Komori's ultimate answer to standardization is through Pantone shades, because when we use a 7-color combination, almost 90% of the colors can be matched. Little under 90%. So it would differ. So what to expect from Komori on a 7-color press when you print a CM, YK, orange, green, and violet? Helping print converters to standardize the process. So you can bank on us to standardize your processes, higher productivity levels, anywhere between 12 to 18% over our previous models. No more ink mixing or going using the ink matching through complex color matching. No more waiting for special color shades. No time loss in the press room, and no need to wait for long runs to come. So you can always keep printing very small runs. So understanding why should you wait for a very long run to come, and print as short a run as you can to the customer need and his demands. And easy to repeat job as many times as you or your customer may need. The high up times of the press. So uptime of a press is very, very important. So effects of smart color is very important for us to understand reduction of ink, change time, optimization of test print, and ink cost saving, and of course the management needs to have less headache at every time. So you printing on 7 colors, no need for any headache for inventory or planning or anything. Most of the things are taken care of. So Komori's solution for regional procurement, but large buyers are forced to revisit post the pandemic because they have factories all over. So they would be considering to outsource at regional supplies. Of course, if you are willing to air freight at no cost, they'll be very happy to do so, provided the inks and the paper remain the same. Standardization of customers' input data with all its Komori suppliers. So the data shared can be uploaded by the customer or their advertising agency to the print converters nationally, and they can do it digitally. And reliability is that Komori has achieved a zero-defect product globally. So understanding that Komori, reliability is that in Komori India, we have a 99.2% uptime nationally, which is probably the highest in the industry. And we have engineers spread all across the country who can vouch, and our customers who would vouch that yes, we would have an uptime of 99.2%. So we also have a well-stocked spare part inventory and very reasonably priced. And of course, the new advanced technologies have been inherited with more skills of operators to avoid any mistakes. So some of the out-of-the-box solutions on security and the ultimate answers to security solutions. Komori, as you all know, we are a world leader in currency, and PPO is one of our businesses, that is printed circuit electronics. And we can apply some of these technologies in packaging. Of course, Komori has many patents with them. So understanding that counterfeiting technology on cartons is the way to go forward. Developing tracking cartons GPS enabled. Developing uniqueness is very, very important, which I think Mr. Kale and Mr. Bhowmik had also stressed upon. And other USPs are required by customers like defective optical or twin pearl or micro embossing, which are much cheaper than other solutions, security shred, conductive inks. There are hordes of solutions which come along with Kumari. And these solutions are customized to customers, to their need, to their requirement, and we can do that for them. And along with these, we can build in and customize these solutions with the Kumari products. Acknowledge the security print in packaging. The knowledge on security print in packaging is more important than just giving a solution, because when we give you the knowledge, we also impart and train your people to move to the next level and to your customers' needs. So providing premiumness to your customer and giving him that extra advantage which he is looking for today is very, very important. And giving an end-to-end solution is the aim. And implementation and hand-holding is the way forward, because we are not box pushers. We are there to hold your hand and see you through from end to end. And I will end my this thing with a short message from Mr. Kumari, our chairman.
Sangamba, I think there's no sound.
Sangam bhai, I think the sound is not working. I mean, it's not playing well.
Okay, anyway, I will, I think there's a sound challenge always.
Go ahead, Tejas.
So thank you, Sangamji. That was very informative. And it would certainly help us all to have better efficiencies and productivity and produce quality and consistent products month after month. Thank you so much for that. And I think with this, we are ending our sessions. And Fahim bhai, you would like to take over?
Yes, so I'd like to thank first the audience for joining us today. I'd like to also thank Kumari India for partnering with the BMPA as usual. I'd like to thank Subhrajit Bhowmik from Cipla Healthcare, Mr. Amit Kale from Reliance Retail, Biswarup Chakrabarty from ITC Foods, and Sangam Khanna from Kumari India, all of whom have shared extensively and comprehensively. Finally, I'd also like to thank Tejas of Printman, who's curated this session. He's been working on it for many months and he's done a fine job. So thank you all, gentlemen, for doing a lovely job today. I'd like to also take this opportunity to announce the Cricket Carnival, which the BMPA is holding along with Toyo Inc. and Mumbai Mudrak Sangh. This is on the 20th of March at the Western Railway Ground. So the cricketers in you and your teams should join us and apply for it. Talk to us at the BMPA and do reserve your slot. There are very few slots left. The next session, which I wanted to announce, is the one by Professor Bowman Moradian. And that's a brilliant session on TOC. I'm sure you've heard Professor Bowman before. I've heard him on 5 or 7 different occasions. And every time I hear from him, I learn a thing or two as to how to run my business more effectively. So Professor Bowman's session is on the 12th of March at 2:30 p.m. And it's about TOC. So we come to an end. I think the visual is just coming up. Yes, there it is. So the TOC stands for Theory of Constraints. Everybody knows who Professor Bowman Moradian is. A authority on this subject. 12th March, 2:30 p.m. So please register for this. You'll get emails and also WhatsApp messages. So thank you once again, all you fine gentlemen, Biswarup, Sangamji, Tejas, Subhrajit, as well as Amit Kale. Thank you all for today's session. You're going to be getting a feedback form on email. I'd request you all to please fill that up and send that to us so we can improve better. Thank you very much and have a lovely evening.